Everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My guest today is Kathleen Wolney, and Kathleen is the Director of Student Services at Grosse Pointe Academy, and that is located in Grosse Pointe Farms, Michigan. Welcome to the podcast,
Oh,
Kathleen.
thank you so much, Janet. I'm excited to be here today.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. I sure do appreciate it. Kathleen, I'd love to hear a little bit about what you do and tell us a little bit about where you work at Grosse Pointe.
Sure. So the Grosse Pointe Academy is a preschool through eighth grade school. And we start off our youngest ones they start off at 2.5 years old. And through kindergarten, we actually have a Montessori program. And then from there, we move over to the big school, which is the lower school is 1st through 4th grade. And then in the same building, we house our middle school as well. So our middle school is 5th through 8th grade. And I spend the majority of my day actually working with the middle school students. So not only am I the director of student services, but I also teach 7th grade math. And interestingly enough, way back when I went to University of Michigan for undergrad, and I thought I wanted to be like a middle school math and science teacher. And then the way that you find a job, you move, those kind of things. I ended up teaching 2nd and 3rd grade in Chicago public schools, and then taught preschool in a Chicago private school. So it actually wasn't until I came here that I taught middle school at all. So I sort of joke around that while most of my experience was with lower school or preschool, that the middle school students aren't that much different than my preschoolers. They're just like a little bit bigger, a little bit smellier sometimes, but they still love the routine and they love the direction and they love the attention from the teachers. So it's been an interesting transition from the different ages.
Yeah, I love that age. They want to be grown-ups, but they're not quite ready to be grown-ups. So they're like, oh yeah. And it's funny how they just, one day they can be one way and another day they're totally opposite but they're great. I love that age. So
well, and they're soaking up different information as a sponge in a different way than you might have a preschooler. But they want to be engaged. They want to learn. They want to have conversations with you, whether it's on topic or off topic, but they still really like being with their teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So what would you say is probably one of your biggest challenges that you're facing right now?
So I think in general, we're fighting technology is what I'm noticing. And over the course of the last couple of years, I've read different books on how technology is influencing our youth. And last summer's big read for me was The Anxious Generation. And I can remember back when I was teaching preschool, it's when iPads first came out. And we thought, how can we incorporate these wonderful new tools into the classroom? And I worked with someone that was designing an app to practice fine motor skills. You like pinched on the iPad and then you drew around to practice your fine motor skills. We were adding smart boards to our classroom.
Oh yeah.
So we could have technology that way. And then now with all of that, we're just really rolling back and we're saying we don't need all that technology. It's that instant gratification, I think, that is really causing a lot of our students to struggle. Whether it's a video game or whether it's television, they're just being entertained all the time on their phones, on their tablets, on their computers. And then as a teacher comes in and you have a really fun activity planned, even if it's hands-on, even if you're making shapes with magnetiles or you're making shapes on your windows, making stained glass windows, it's really hard to hold their attention when for so many years they've been using tablets and computers and phones to be entertained.
Yeah. They don't know how to not be entertained without something. And there's studies now that are talking about withdrawal symptoms and just psychological issues related to, and even as adults, I have a phone. I'm on my phone way too much. My phone tells me how much I'm on my phone.
I know, like before bed, like trying to scroll through Instagram, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a habit that we really need to try and break. We need to try and break ourselves, set limits for ourselves, show our own children and our students how to responsibly use technology. I think
Right.
that that is really what we need to guide students in. So it's not bad. There's so many wonderful things that come with technology. We have a really great STEM program here too, and we have a whole classroom set of VR goggles. And so it's amazing to be able to be learning about something in history class or in geography class and put on those VR goggles, and all of a sudden like you're in the middle of the pyramids. So
Right.
that's a great example of how technology is fantastic.
Right.
Or some of my children with learning challenges, those who are dyslexic, the ability to be able to listen to their story, whether it's a picture book or whether they're doing a novel study, and being able to listen to the story so they have like that great comprehension, but they just are still struggling with fluency. That's
Mhm.
another
Yeah.
great way technology is helping for us. Or the voice to text. So if you've got all these great ideas in your head, but you're struggling to get them onto
That
paper or
that fine
typed up,
motor. Yeah.
right, you can use
Hmm.
voice to text as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a balancing act. It really is a balancing act. I love that you were talking about the audio. Do you, when you're working with dyslexic students, do you pair the audio with the text itself as well? Do you find that helpful to the students?
So the best case scenario would be you'd be able to listen to it and it would be guided on your screen
With the
with
yeah,
like the
highlighting
words
the words,
changing.
jumping. Yeah, I've seen
I
that.
have
Mhm.
yet to find the perfect way to do that. Amazon has something called Whisper Read. So if you own the book in Audible, their
Mhm.
audio listening, and you have the ebook copy, whether it's checked out from your library or you've bought it from Amazon, there are some books that they call Whisper Read,
Yep.
that you can track and you can listen as you go. But it's not all of them, and it's not consistent enough. So I remember helping a seventh grader, and they were reading a book called Red Kayak. And that was one that I had the Audible for, and I had checked it out from the library, the ebook. So it did work for that. But if anyone has a great suggestion, would be perfect. We've tried a few other solutions here, but the voices sound super robotic, and that doesn't
Yeah.
really work for a lot of my students. It's just not engaging. You want to hear that fluency because you want them to hear that,
Mhm.
and then that'll make them a better reader too. So most of the time, what I suggest is whether you've bought it from Audible or our libraries here have the Libby app.
Oh,
And
uh-huh.
so many books are available either in Libby or there's another one called Hoopla. And so
Mhm.
if you have checked the book out or you've bought it from Audible and you can listen and just follow along in your book, that's what we end up doing. But I'm waiting for someone to create the app that has a real voice, a real person reading the story to them, and has the words come across on the screen. So if you come across that,
Yeah.
let me know because
Yeah.
that's what we're looking for.
The one that I have always recommended is exactly what you were talking about with the whisper sync and
Mhm.
doing it that way. And um, but I'm wondering about AI. I'm wondering if AI is going to, AI is we've another piece of technology where it is dominating what's happening, and not always in a good way. I think it's like you were saying before about technology. Sometimes there's the piece that's really great. And even the therapists that work for us are finding great ways to create materials. I mean,
Mhm.
like in the snap of your finger and you've got it. So I'm wondering if maybe there's something there.
And we
Yeah.
have our action auction coming up, which is our big fundraiser for the year. And for that, we have a paddle raise every year. And the paddle raise goes to a different initiative in the school. And this year, it possibly might be going to something that's like an AI lab. And I was
Ah,
overhearing one of the middle school students talking today about it. She was doing a little cameo appearance for a video. And she was talking about creating an AI bot that would then help a new student know how to get around the school. So somehow like
wow.
mapping it, and maybe it would like generate like what the hallways looked like. So that's an instance which is pretty cool to take someone on a tour of the school. How do I get from the art loft down to the STEM room? That's really neat.
So is it a big school? I've never been there. So is it fairly large?
It is actually on the smaller side. So we
Okay.
have around 240 students this
Okay.
year.
Nice.
And we had, I think our numbers sort of ebb and flow. COVID, we definitely increased our numbers. I think a lot of people, we were in person, which was
Hmm.
fantastic. So we
Right.
definitely had an influx of students coming from the public school.
Right.
And now our numbers have sort of settled back to where they were before. But I think
Yeah.
a lot of parents these days, it's almost like we're not competing with the other private schools in our area, but in our area, we're competing with the public schools. Our public schools are also great. So if you think of the Grosse Pointe Academy a as being like a product, sort of, I consider it being like organic produce. It's something
Oh, there you
that
go.
like you can get a less expensive version of, but if you go to the organic produce way, you're getting a little bit better of everything. And yes, it costs more, but there's many benefits to it. Versus if you buy like a super luxury brand, you might not have as many of actual benefits for it. It's just like the name brand of it. But to me,
Hmm.
I use the example, we were talking about it in an admin meeting, and I use the example of organic produce because there are benefits to it. There are
Hmm.
reasons. Sure, you're fine eating regular conventional strawberries, maybe, but if you want to go the better route, you're going to go the organic route. And that's
Right.
what I think.
Right. Very nice. That's a great analogy, a great way to think about it. Um, so if we talked about technology, what other things would you say that you have found that as a leader that you're constantly using to support your team, to support your therapist or I'm a therapist, excuse me, to support your teachers? What kinds of philosophies have you used throughout your career that kind of promote and help people to be successful? Because obviously you're successful. So where would you go with that?
So I think with literacy for us, we've put a lot of effort and funding into having us trained in the Orton Gillingham method,
Oh,
which
okay.
is structured literacy. So all of us, a few kindergarten teachers, and then through fourth grade, we're all trained in Orton Gillingham. So that's really helping all readers, but especially those students that need structured literacy to be able to learn to read. So, especially if a child is dyslexic, that's what they need to be able to learn to read. They're not going to learn to read just by being exposed to print or in a print rich environment or hearing read alouds. That's not what they
Hmm.
need. They really need a systematic approach to it.
Right.
And so the Grosse Pointe Academy has done a fantastic job in training us with that. We even have, there's three more of us that are going to get trained in the next level of Orton Gillingham, which is the morphology. We're going to do that this summer. So I think that for us, being able to have these professional development trainings has really helped a lot. With that being said, I teach seventh grade math,
Hmm.
and there just doesn't seem to be as much out there for math training. So I'm going to a math training on Friday that's about how to catch students up who fall behind in math. But
Okay.
there doesn't seem to be that like OG of math. So that's another thing I'm looking for. I'm looking like how can all books be visual and auditory? And then what is the best kind of math training when someone, whether they have dyscalculia or they're coming from a different school, so they're a couple grades behind us in math,
Hmm.
how do you catch them up? And so that's something that I've also been working with my team on. How do we catch up students in math?
Yeah. Do you guys have any issues? And I know it's a private school, so maybe not as much, but are you seeing any of the issues with cyberbullying and that kind of thing happening with your kids at all? It's just as kids are kids no matter where they are. So, we talked about the technology and about because you work with middle schoolers and that's kind of where you're going to see a lot of that. And I'm just curious if that's something that has touched your world at all or not.
So
Um,
it has touched us a little bit. It seems like there has been in the past a little bit of something goes out and it hurts someone's feelings. We have thankfully not had to deal with any big issues. But what has helped us a lot is we do not allow phones during the school day. So in the past, the phones were supposed to be in your locker, in your backpack, and locked away. And this year we took it a step further. And whether it's a phone or a smartwatch, they go into lock boxes in your homeroom. And then they're locked in there all day. And then at the end of the day, before you leave for sports practice, you can put it back in your backpack. And depending on where the sports practice is, the gym even has another lockbox that you put your phone back into. And I think that has saved us a ton. Then you're not having kids sneaking into the bathroom to send a text to then upset somebody else who also got out of class to go check their locker to see if someone wrote them back. And, I think even with whether it's the notifications that are going off on your phone, even if it's out of sight, out of mind, you might still be checking it when you're walking in the hallway. Or if you have a smart watch, even if you have it set on vibrate and it's not disturbing anybody else, every time you get a notification, your attention is shifted.
It's a distractor.
From what is the teacher doing? What are you supposed to be doing? You're quick, you're checking your watch. Oh, did someone send me a text? Oh, is it time to do this? Is it time to do that? And again, it's distracting. And I think that it's taking a toll on your attention span.
Right. I agree.
Then the flip side of it is that I also do think that smartwatches and phones can be great for students with executive functioning challenges because you can set reminders. And that's the thing that is challenging for me when we do take that away. Because if you had a reminder set, if let's say you're someone that has trouble remembering to turn their math homework in, if you had a reminder set every day at 8:40 to turn in your math homework, your watch would buzz at you as you walk in the math door and you'd look at me and you'd say, "Oh, here's my homework, Mrs. Wolney."
Right.
So I think that we're really trying to embrace less technology in the realm of just for technology's sake, but really being mindful of how we're using it so that we still have the attention of the students, but we're using it in a creative way and just
Do they have computers? I'm wondering if maybe you could set something up like that on a computer, maybe.
And you could. We do use Chromebooks for the middle school, and we have iPads for the younger students. But I'll tell you, in my math class, we hardly ever use the Chromebooks.
Right.
Again, I just think that there's more distractions than anything else. I'll have students ask me, they'll say, "Oh, Mrs. Wolney, can I check my grades?" No, we're in the middle of a math lesson. Right. You don't need to check your grades right now. Let's focus on this.
Yeah. Stay focused. Stay with me here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One question at the end of all of my conversations, I ask everybody this question. If you could miraculously solve one challenge in your school, what would you want to solve?
I would want to solve enrollment. I would want to have as many students that wanted to come here be able to come financially and be able to have, right now we have between 1 and 2 sections per class, per grade. And I would want that to come up to 3 sections per grade. I think that you would have more students, you'd have more diversity, you'd have different social groups. Right. And I think that would solve so many social issues, especially in middle school and when you're trying to find friends and you're trying to figure out who you are. But it would just also give us more of a critical mass to do more with our students as well.
Gotcha. It was fantastic. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for your time. I think we had a great conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn more about your school?
So if you want to learn more about the Grosse Pointe Academy, you can certainly just Google the Grosse Pointe Academy, or our website is gpa.org.
Okay. All right. So. Well, great. Thank you once again. And I've enjoyed this conversation immensely. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on Brighter Together.
Thanks so much. And I'm going to add for you guys to add in later. The website I need to say it better. It's gpacademy.org.
Okay.
So if you want me to re-say the whole thing.
Yeah, go ahead and say the whole thing, and we'll cut
Okay.
that in. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So let me give you the beginning. So
Okay.
where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about your school?
So we have a fantastic website, the Grosse Pointe Academy. You can Google it, or you can go to gpacademy.org. And not only can you learn about our programs, you can learn about what we do after school. You can learn about our summer camp programs and a lot of other things about Grosse Pointe Academy. You can even see our beautiful view to Lake St. Clair.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.